Call the meeting to order. Sorry, Jack. Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. We do have 5 right now. Erica's got that. You did a quick count, didn't you? All right.
Getting a little close here.
A little close, yeah, anyway. All right, first on the agenda for this evening is the warrant article for 35. Heather Ann Marie, how are you? It's nice to see you again. Would you and your assistant, I don't know if she's an assistant.
No, the other half of my committee.
Your other half. Your better half, you would say.
Exactly.
Over at, across the street from my house.
Sorry?
I met,
Oh, Ann?
Yeah. Remember at, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. Anyway, we were at a party where we met anyway.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yep,
Across what street?
Georgia Road.
George Hill. Article 38 in the annual, the citizens petition. Everyone is there. We'll give you a little time to catch up there, Erica.
You
You're
can start,
okay?
I'll get
Okay,
there.
all
I'll
right.
get there.
The annual warrant article citizens petition. You're on.
Hi, Anne Marie Foley. So I'm just here to talk about the polystyrene reduction, or proposed polystyrene reduction bylaw that we are bringing before the town in May. I can go through a little bit in terms of why we're doing this, I suppose, just to.
I would like to hear why
Sure.
that, and yes.
Yeah, so, last year we looked at the plastic bags and we brought that to the town, and that started enforcement as of this July. And kind of part of that, we were looking at polystyrene as well, so we just didn't do them together. We've been, thinking about this for a while. Similar issues in terms of why we would do this, in terms of the environmental impact. It's another plastic that ends up in our waterways and is really doing a lot of damage. It doesn't break down, polystyrene. Additionally, the styrene that is the ingredient in polystyrene has been, deemed a carcinogenic. So when you're getting your hot beverages or hot food in styrofoam products, that is potentially leaching into your food. So there's, health reasons to get rid of styrofoam in addition to environmental reasons. What we have found with the plastic bag reduction bylaw is that, I hope you'll concur if you look around town, and Ann and I were both involved in the cleanup a couple weekends ago, and we did not pick up one plastic bag. We go hiking in the woods a lot, and as does my husband, and we used to see plastic bags in the trees, we no longer see that. We did pick up styrofoam cups, though, last week on our little, during the cleanup. So that is an issue. They're out there, they're here in our town, and then eventually it leaches out. They break down, but the smaller they break down, the farther that they go. We also can't put them in our recycling stream here in Grafton, not if food has been contained in it. So we're only addressing food containers, not when your television comes, that type of styrofoam. Northborough just passed both polystyrene and plastic bag ban 2 days ago. Shrewsbury has already done this. Our language in the proposed bylaw mirrors that of the language that is at the state right now, in addition to Shrewsbury and Northborough. So we're all kind of working together to make sure that the language is the same, so that if indeed, just like with the plastic bag ban, when and if it is passed by the state, we will just kind of slide right in because it'll be similar language. Additionally, in Shrewsbury, I believe we have the same Director of Health. I'm not sure if that's the correct title. So we are trying to keep it in line because that will be the person that will be overseeing this in terms of implementation, I suppose. We've given a date of January 1st of 2020 for implementation, so the businesses do have some time to look into, switching over. If they have inventory, it'll give them time to get rid of it. Then there's also clauses of, if there's a hardship, they can have another 6 months, and then another 6 months as well. So we've kind of given them like a year or more if need be. Ann and I have been going to all the business, our plan is to visit every business that will be impacted by this, which I believe, I didn't bring my list, it's at home, but I think it's about 34 restaurants and establishments here in town. And we've gone to over half of those at this time.
And what kind of response did you get back?
So far, there's been one business that had some concerns in terms of cost, and so we went back and forth a little bit with that. It's also a business that does business in other towns that this is all already, in effect. So it's not that it's a new thing, but there is a cost, obviously, that's going to impact businesses. There are a number of businesses that don't use styrofoam products already, restaurants and whatnot in our town, so that's great. Dunkin' Donuts, which I thought would be kind of a big one, they, as a corporation, are going to this by 2020 anyways, so it'll be
Oh, okay.
in line with our bill. And other than that, so there are people that are already not using styrofoam for exactly the reasons that we're proposing this. And for those that are still using some products, some of the pizza places and/or the Chinese food restaurants, they also have other products that they're using in addition to styrofoam. And what we've been met with is just, no problem, we understand. So it'll, obviously, there is a cost, but we haven't had any pushback actually at all. And we've gone to just over half of the 34 so far.
Did the businesses give you any idea what it would cost them an average?
So I have, I do have like a price comparative, I have this information here, and I can give you a copy of it. So it's basically anywhere from 0 to 4 cents per item. And so it depends. So like a 10-ounce cold cup there's no cost difference. The highest one is 4 cents, is like a 6-inch hinge container, and that's a 4 cents difference from the information that I have. So yeah, so far, we haven't had any issues really, even the one business that did bring up this as being, an additional burden. It wasn't something that he hadn't, heard of and doesn't know that it's coming
So
down
you're-
the pike, so to speak.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're going to continue to talk to some more of the businesses?
We're gonna go to
that-
every one of
We're
them,
gonna
just
go
like we
to
did with the
everyone.
plastic bag ban. We
Okay.
went to every business that was gonna be.
So you're halfway through with your inventory right
Yeah,
now?
More than
yeah, we're
half.
just over half, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we plan to go and talk to every single business that will be affected.
Questions from the Finance Committee, please?
Yeah. How does this get policed?
So it's the Director of Health that will ultimately oversee it. And what I would hope is that, just like the plastic bag ban, that it won't be an issue. That businesses already know that this is a good thing to do and it's the right thing to do, and that we won't be doing any fines,
So they go to that corrugated cardboard kind of stuff?
Potentially, I mean, what would be ideal is to go to a product, the mission of this is not so much even just to look at getting rid of styrofoam as, is just to kind of make a change altogether. So there are currently establishments in town where they're giving you products that you can put in your dishwasher and/or maybe even microwave potentially, and certainly reuse them. So I clean them out and I reuse them. So it's a plastic product,
Yeah.
but it's reusable. So I can reuse that for however long, it's multi-use. So that would be the hope, is that you're not just getting a paper product that you're still putting in the trash, but maybe you would be getting something that you can reuse. And that's, I think, what we all have to think about. It's not just, are we incinerating it, or are we throwing it out, or are we recycling it? It's that we have to get to products that we are just reusing. Single-use plastic, we need to stop. We need to just stop that.
Any more questions?
Yep.
Dan?
So the one business that said it would be a burden, did they say specifically why, like just cost in general, or did they?
Yeah,
say
no,
more
I'm sorry, it wasn't so much that it was a burden, it was, obviously, he said that it's gonna impact the bottom line, right? And either that gets passed on to the customer or they absorb it. But it's also someone who does business in Cambridge and in other towns around here where they already can't use polystyrene in those communities, so, it would,
Do
it's,
catering.
it's a change that they can make, they have to in other places. He just expressed that it's going to cost him more money. And and we appreciate that. Similar with the plastic bags, we appreciated that was more on the consumer, that this was potentially going to be a cost for a consumer. So we're trying to do our best to, help with that if need be. When we went to EDC, someone brought up that if a business, had some issues with that, maybe we can look at proposing, are there lights that they can use that might save money, some sort of different type of lighting, like something that could offset this. So I haven't looked into that too much more, but that would be an idea, that, even if it's gonna be 1 cent more per 1,000 or whatever it is, maybe we can offset that with some sort of ideas on your lighting or some other green initiative. So it wasn't a big pushback, but he just voiced that, and rightly so, that it's just gonna increase his cost by, a couple of cents depending on the product.
I don't think it's unusual to have pushback from a few companies, no matter what you do in
Yeah,
town, so
yeah.
that's not unusual.
I mean,
think,
so far, we've been pleasantly surprised.
Everyone's been
I have
good.
been, for sure, yeah.
Good.
I know
I mean, I
there
went to-
was-
go
I
ahead.
know there was some questioning about the level of the fine. Is that settled? Or are you gonna increase it or decrease it?
Well, right, so I did talk to a selectman who expressed some concern about the, and I don't know if that came up, I wasn't at the
Yes,
selectmen's
it
meeting,
did,
sorry, I
yeah.
was away. So, I spoke with him individually about that. And that can be changed, of course. Again,
Not on this year, though. or
no,
this
no,
warrant,
but
in the future,
ultimately, if you want to.
Okay.
My hope would be that we're not fining businesses, that that's not the impetus for them, that if it's $50 and we're gonna make it 500 now so that they have to do it. That wouldn't be my goal with this. Ideally, we're not fining the businesses, that they're able to find a comparable product. And if it is a little bit more expensive, then yes, maybe some of us will have to, take on the burden of that as consumers. But I think in the end, most people generally feel better about doing these types of things when all is said and done. I've read some, back and forth about people saying, I'm gonna take my business elsewhere, I'm gonna drive somewhere else and go get my coffee, and, for some people, that might be what you wanna do, but I think that if you go there with your reusable cup, or you use a product over and over at your house, that you got your, leftovers in last night, there's a little bit of a good feeling for that overall. So I'm open to whatever in terms of the, changing the fine, but
Yeah, I
hoping
think
that we
that's
don't have
something that
to.
you probably should look at, but that doesn't happen right away anyway, so.
yeah, it would be like a
that-
year out.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
so,
I really wanna ask this. So you asked somebody on the select board?
I spoke to the person on the one of the selectmen who had concern about that.
who
That's a loaded
who enforces the fine?
Board of Health?
It would be the,
Board of
yeah,
Health do it, okay.
and we're meeting with them next week, I think. We're on their agenda coming up.
Yeah, May 4th.
And they're the ones that we went, for the plastic bag ban, it's similar, yeah.
Because I would think since they, most of them are willing to do this, there should be a grace period before, beyond maybe a year, so they could get all adjusted and feel comfortable with it, then.
Yeah, and so I went to Pepperoni Express, for example, and he was great, he said, whatever you need to do, I understand, I want it to go that way anyways, and he only uses it for a few products.
Yep.
And he said that from now until January, he would have gone through his inventory of that product, of the
Okay.
polystyrene. And then, so if someone wasn't able to get through it in that time, then yes, they have first 6 months and then another 6 months.
You had a
Any-
question?
Yeah, just, do you know how things are going at the statewide level? Like, is there momentum, or has it been stalled in
It's at
committee
the-
for 5 years?
Is that like the Department of Public Health? It's in committee, like Public
Uh-oh.
Health Committee, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of the polystyrene?
Yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah.
really the only thing I'm sympathetic to against the ban would be that it's pockmarked, like one community has it, the other one doesn't.
Mhm.
I think it should be a national or state thing where it just is standardized, but I support.
Well, and I think this is how we do that, though. It's
How you
that,
get it
this is
going.
democracy, is
Yep.
that we're bringing this, so our town is gonna decide that this is where we wanna go. And then if the towns around us, that are supported by Senator Moore or our representative all do this, then they're going to support, because we're telling them,
Yeah.
this is what we want to support at the state level. If our state then moves this forward, such as, other states have, that's how it works, to get it to the
Yeah.
federal level. We can't wait and say, it'll be great if the government would just do this, but that's actually not how it works. It should work the other way.
Yeah, that's what's happening with marijuana too. Eventually, it's just gonna reach a tipping point where
Yeah.
over 25 states have legalized it, so what's the federal government waiting for, so.
Yeah,
No, just a comment from like the finance committee perspective, I don't believe any business person that says that they're gonna leave because of this. And this will not prevent a business from opening in Grafton. So I think from our purview, this is great and easy to support.
and that's what I talked to the Economic Development Committee about, is that there are also consumers such as myself, and there are more and more of us that care about this. So I'm actually spending my dollars at places that I feel are supporting green initiatives. And there are a lot of people that are doing that. So I don't think that it's entirely, you can go both ways. There's both people, I suppose, right? Yeah.
I don't like when my food is in a styrofoam container.
And actually, a couple of the businesses that we talked to, they say they don't want to put their, they don't like putting their food in the styrofoam because it changes it.
Yeah.
And it's not good and things are leaching in there, yeah.
When
It's
a-
just a cost, sorry.
When a business moves in now, to follow on what Eric said, when a business moves in, will there be some kind of sentence in their permitting process that says you can't use this, you can use that?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I can find out, though. That would be,
That's a good question,
Banning
because
or
they're going to
something?
have to be alerted to that if they come in as a restaurant or whatever.
I mean, I'm assuming that,
Once in a while, you make a good point
Yes,
there.
I do. Like last night, yes.
I'll just leave it at that then. Duly noted, go out on a high note.
That is a good point as to how are they going to be notified that this is a well, most people
assuming-
that move into town, though, look at what regulations they have to follow.
I would think so,
So
yeah.
I would
The
assume
same
that
is true about the plastic bags.
Yeah.
Right,
So, I mean, they
exactly, and I
just-
don't know how that,
I'm sure the
'Cause-
Board of Health could probably make some comment when they come and do the inspection, right? For-
But
yeah.
I just think when you're a business and you're coming into town, you're gonna look at all the regulations
Yeah.
you're gonna have to follow. And this is one that they're going to discover, and
Yeah.
so
I would think that there's information there as a new
I
business owner,
would
yeah.
think there would be.
And just as an aside, Westboro and Upton also have this in the works. It's not on the spring town meeting, but they're working on,
Westboro and Upton, you said?
Correct.
Okay.
And I do think, considering how many communities are doing this, it's probably something that's on the radar for people who are looking to start a new business in a
Right.
new community.
right,
I've seen a lot of businesses go to paper straws,
yeah,
you
I know.
So I just,
That's not really the next, I don't think, I was thinking not to do it this way as opposed to, I've been trying to talk to establishments about just having straws, but you have to ask for the straw, that's all. I
A
think
lot of
just,
them, yeah.
just doing that would reduce a lot, so they can, they still would be there, because if I get water and there's not a straw in it, I drink the water.
Yeah.
If there's a straw in it, I'm like, oh.
a lot of them, though, that I've noticed
Yeah.
have gone to paper straws.
Yeah.
So not so much so in Grafton, but in surrounding towns.
Yeah.
They have it all there, and so, but anyway.
All the swanky restaurants
All
Sue
the
goes
swanky,
to.
all the swanky restaurants where I need a straw, right?
With the paper
right.
straws.
Yeah. I wish.
Remember,
Anyway,
okay, so this is how old I am. Remember when straws were special? Like getting a straw was
Yeah,
cool. 'cause you
exactly.
didn't always do it. Now we don't get one. We're like, huh? What?
remember when straws used to be paper?
Oh,
And then they
yeah.
went to
Yep,
plastic?
I
remember
So,
paper
okay.
Well, and that's the
Right.
thing, so like our whole reliance on plastic, we've gone from here, we're way up there, and I think it's going to come back down, So it was this great thing, plastic, when it was, initially introduced, and now it's just become kind of crazy.
In my opinion, I think this is a great initiative.
Oh, good,
so,
thank you.
But I will vote on it later
Yep.
this evening after that. So, any other further questions for them while they're here?
Just a comment, you used to be able to tear off the paper that covered the straw and shoot it at your sister.
You still can do that.
Yeah, you can still do that.
Okay.
All right.
You should, wait, you should have
on.
left on the other thing about the businesses.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Nice to see
Thank
you both again.
Barry got his one useful comment in, so.
Yeah. Yep.
That's two. I'm bleeding.
Can I have you take that one and pass it down, please?
Take one and pass it down.
It's okay.
Ah, yes.
I didn't miss much. We didn't worry about this one.
I took two.
Justin, please come forward. Come on down. I have no money for you, though,
Oh, well, I can come back.
but I still wouldn't have it
Oh,
for you.
well, all right.
That's okay.
Somebody has a new baby.
Someone has the new.
Tuesday, I had a new daughter boy.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
You got
You're
a
here?
boy?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
Congrats.
I took 5 days off and I'm using my family medical leave when my wife goes back to work in a few
That's
months.
wonderful.
So that way
A
we can.
boy? How many?
No,
like
it was a girl.
Oh, a girl. How
Yeah.
many pounds? and
7
ounces?
pounds 6 ounces.
And her name?
Allison.
Allison. All right. Congratulations. I think that's wonderful. I know when you
Thanks.
were in, you were expecting, but.
Yep. Tuesday last week, she called at 1 and by 7:30 we had a baby.
How are
So
you sleeping?
what's that? Sleep.
You'll never sleep
I'm
again.
okay.
You're
Doing okay. My wife's the real hero here. She's taking most of the night shift, so I can get a little bit of sleep and come to work.
All righty. So Justin has articles in the annual, Article 27 we start with. And if you just want to talk to those your articles, that would be helpful.
I don't have the same list you have, but I can refer to them.
Is there a copy of
Do
the
you have a-
warrant on the table there?
I
That
think
he
this
can
is
look at?
what he created.
He
Actually, this is
created
what
this,
you
yeah, I
said.
know, but I just
Oh,
wanted
gotcha.
to see.
Okay, I have a copy.
All right.
Oh, okay, what would you like, the
All
article?
right, that's okay. We have our, this is the property tax exemption
Yeah,
for
so
veterans.
there's two for property tax. Actually, they're all property tax related.
Right,
Two of them are exemptions you apply for, and one of them is veterans property tax work-off.
yep, okay. So we'll go by what we have on the warrant article, so we don't get confused here.
Sure. Okay, so you said it was Article 27.
7,
Okay. I apologize for not being
Okay.
on the same page as you right away. Okay. So Article 27, the property tax exemption for veterans whose property has been conveyed to a trust.
right.
Currently, I do not think that veterans, according to state law, if they put if their property goes into a trust, their property is no longer eligible for any exemptions they may be eligible for under Clause 22. So this article would allow for the trust to be eligible for the same exemption of any domiciled veteran within the property that the trust controls. It was recently created a state law in November of last year when Governor Baker signed, August. It came into effect in November on Veterans Day. So that would benefit veterans by, if they put their property into a trust so that, like Medicare or probate can't take it, then their property, the trust would benefit from the property tax exemption and save them a little bit of money, as they would if they had the.
So I'm assuming the exemption goes away when there's no longer any need for.
Because
veteran
the trust becomes the owner of the property.
property.
So
Okay.
they,
If they're not a veteran, they
they
are.
wouldn't, the trust's not a veteran, so it wouldn't be eligible.
Right.
Correct.
Any questions on this article? Ed?
What is Clause 22?
Clause 22 is part of Mass General Law, Chapter 59. It's all the veterans exemptions, similar to like the senior tax exemptions and I don't know, any other. Chapter 59, I believe, is all the exemptions eligible to eligible Massachusetts residents.
Okay.
And Clause 22, 22A, A through F are the previous ones, and now G and H are the two newest that were just created.
And we do have a number of veterans who are in a trust in Grafton, at least 2 or
Yeah.
3 that I know of, so.
And I think Mary's been kind of, there's no state law that opposes that. So I think Mary's been kind of trying, Mary Oliver, the
Yep,
assessor,
right.
been trying to honor those exemptions for veterans, but this makes it official.
Official,
So there's
right.
no way to say no, really. They're allowed to.
Okay.
And how,
yeah.
is it 100% exemption or a percentage?
The exemptions vary depending on the clause that you fall under. So like 22A or 22 is the general exemption. If you're a veteran with any type of disability rating from the VA from 10% to 90%, you get a $400 tax exemption. And here in Grafton, a local option was adopted to double that amount, up to $800. 22E is for 100% service-connected veterans. They get $1,000 off the property tax. And then 22D is for the surviving spouses of veterans who are 100%. They get the full exemption off the property tax.
All right.
So it depends. depending on the
Just a quick question. So the property gets conveyed to a trust. What happens when the veteran passes away?
then the veteran wouldn't be domiciled at the trust anymore, so the trust would then no longer be eligible for the exemption.
I see.
I think that's addressed in the the paperwork I gave had a summary page and then the actual,
Oh, okay.
most of the actual wording.
It says the domicile of the person, so this would not
Yeah.
pass to a spouse.
Correct. Oh, well, unless the spouse was eligible for an exemption. Because there are certain exemptions that are for eligible spouses or surviving spouses of
Okay, so the
veterans.
spouse would remain eligible until they passed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. But there's no scenario where this happens in perpetuity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Once that initial person and their surviving spouse pass, the trust would then no longer be
Gotcha.
eligible.
Do you have an indication of how many in town would be potentially eligible?
I don't know how many people have their properties in trust, and I honestly wouldn't know how to find out that information.
Sure.
'Cause
I mean, I
that's
imagine it's pretty small.
probably.
Planning
I'm,
board has had people come who have had their property in trust. So there's a couple that
I know there's a few. I've talked to a couple, but I couldn't say more than a handful out of maybe the last few hundred veterans I've talked to. And that would, not just in Grafton, but that's throughout the district we serve, so
I see.
3 other towns. So it's not a lot. A lot of people don't seem to know about trusts and how that can help protect your property from
Right.
like probate court and other stuff.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for him on Article 27? If not, Article 28, Gold Star Parents.
All right, Article 28 for Gold Star parents. I would like to, there is, Gold Star parents' definition of Gold Star is, there isn't a specific definition, because I've run into a problem where I found out that I thought Gold Star meant if you, like Gold Star spouses, meant you were a Gold Star spouse, it meant that your significant other had died on active duty, either in combat or due to combat-related injuries, something like that. But there's a few other levels that have recently come to my attention that there's nothing like in U.S. code or state law or anything that covers it. So I made sure that in this article, it specifically words that the Gold Star person, Gold Star parents, so the parents of a service member who dies specifically on during active duty service, suffered an injury or illness documented by the United States Department of Veterans Services or a branch of the armed forces that was a proximate cause of their death. So it has to be related to their active duty service.
Okay.
I'm reading the actual.
Any questions for Justin?
And so
Oh.
there's, as far as I know, in Grafton specifically, there aren't any Gold Star parents. There may be a few Gold Star spouses, but they're already eligible under a different exemption.
Okay.
So this one is specifically for parents. I don't know if you're familiar with Northborough, but a recent example would be the Arsenals. Their son Brian died, I think it was in 2014 in now I'm going to sound like a jerk because I can't remember if it was Afghanistan or Iraq, but I know it was one of the two. And they would be eligible when the town adopts this. So I don't know if there are any Vietnam veterans whose parents are still alive that would fall under this, but they might be eligible. And that would be covered under the overlay that the assessor has.
Right. Any questions?
And it's a property tax exemption for the parents who are going to live in that house.
Correct, for the parents' property only, and it's a full exemption.
All property tax.
For their main, so if they have, it's for their primary residence as well. So if they have like 7 properties, it's only for the one they live in.
Yeah. Okay.
So this obviously isn't retroactive?
Nope.
Okay,
It starts the year they apply for it, if they're eligible for it.
okay.
Any other questions?
Can the town apply to be like reimbursed or get grants or anything for instituting laws like this that benefit the families?
So that is an ongoing, most of the exemptions are reimbursed to some point. This one specifically, because it's a local option that the town adopts, the DOR has stated they will not be reimbursing any of this.
Okay.
We thought they might do a full exemption, but they said no. And we have an association in the state, the Mass Veteran Service Officer Association. We're fighting that. We want them to reimburse some portion of it, if not all of it, because it's not a very common occurrence. So I think, and the sacrifice that they've made, I think they deserve a full exemption at the very least,
Yeah.
from a grateful state and country.
Yeah, it should be the federal government. I don't know, the state shouldn't have to reimburse, but that's another matter altogether.
Yeah.
Whole nother discussion.
I also, I'll be honest, I'm thinking about this and I'm going, right now it's not, but imagine what this could have done to a town during World War II.
True.
you know, God forbid, I hope we're never, ever in that situation again. I like to think we're not going to be, but the reality is, it could happen. I'm also having trouble with this, and again, there's no amount of money that makes up for this. But it's one thing to think that I'm giving this to, you know, the couple that lives in a $300,000 split level. It's another thing, and again, it's unlikely just because of the demographics of the service, I recognize that. But to think that I'm now giving it to a couple that's living in a $700,000, you know, mansion.
So,
And I know you can't get into the weeds on that, but it's a full exemption no matter the value.
so what is the value of a service member's life to their parents?
There isn't any. And again,
And that's
they're not
where-
any less grieving than are the other parents. And I recognize that, and I probably sound like people, I'm sure
But
I'm
I
gonna get
understand
flamed big
from a
time for this.
financial viewpoint.
But I have to look at it, I've got to look after the whole town.
Right.
You know, and much as my heart can go out to grieving parents, I also have to be thinking about the potential ramifications for every other resident in this town. You know, and now one of these, the first one does cover disabilities, right? Oh, no, that's only covered by trust, because I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it just, we really get into the weeds. I'm kind of thinking out loud.
So let's, I mean, play the thought exercise out. If it is a significant amount of income in the future, we could just have another warrant article that would basically retract accepting this provision.
I don't
So-
think when someone signs up for a service, there's a distinction, though. I mean, they're in the service, they're in active duty, they're doing the very same thing. I don't see any
Oh,
distinction
yeah,
at all.
no,
but-
and I'm not, I'm just saying, what
Parents
are the
aren't gonna be looking
ramifications if
for
I
this,
accept
but
this?
it's kind of like a, I don't wanna,
You don't say it.
if you're, think if it was your kid, and this is the most the grateful state could do is, you don't need to pay property taxes anymore. I mean, that's, regardless of what size property you have, it's not ever gonna fill
No,
that
it's
hole.
not, and I'm not
so-
looking at it from that point of view. I'm looking at it from purely, the town needs revenue. And right now, an
Well, what's the
ungodly
difference
percentage of
between-
our revenue
what's
comes
the
from
difference between
residential
a-
real estate taxes.
a $700,000 house and a $300,000 house. I mean,
I
it's
know,
a couple $1,000s.
especially if I look at a $2.4 billion, you know,
Oh, there you go. So what if someone owns a $2.4 million
Valuation.
house and their kid dies in
Yeah.
a war?
And I think
mean,
you need to, you know, some of these families may not want to take the exemption because they
Right.
don't need it.
they have to apply
So
for it.
they have to,
so-
right.
yeah, so it's not just automatically given,
Right.
they need to come ask.
Right. They have to do the application, go through the paperwork to get it. And it's up to the town too. I'm putting this forward as my duty as a veteran service officer to support veterans, and this is something I think would benefit families. But it's up to the town ultimately to decide that at the town meeting. But you do bring up a valid point, Irene. It's that's something to consider, and that's something that the people in town should consider before they vote on this.
Any other questions, comments? None? Article, which article are we on now? I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, I guess this is good. If it's a wife, this is different than this is parents, but if a wife, this is just, I'm asking, if they get remarried, what happens but they stay in that house? Does that?
She's no longer eligible if she remarries.
I'm just curious.
Has to be the surviving spouse and unremarried.
And it's as for as long as they live in that house. Like the parents, I'm going back to the parents now. So as long as they live in that house, they're exempt.
That would be any property they own.
Oh, any property in Grafton.
Oh, actually, you know what? Regarding this, I'm not sure. Like, if the parents got divorced, or if one of the spouses died and then they remarried, she may actually still be eligible if the other spouse is deceased because she's the sole surviving Gold Star parent and she's still in the same property. I think she would still be able to receive that as long as one of them is alive. They should be able to.
But if they move to a different house in Grafton, they're still exempt. Have to be
That I don't know. I'm not sure.
I would think so.
It's whatever
It definitely
property.
says they're domiciled in that house for
says domiciled in the Commonwealth for 5
Yeah,
consecutive
maybe
years.
it's just in Mass.
I think you're looking at the eligibility.
This says such exemption shall be available until such a time as the surviving parents or guardians are deceased. And this, I believe, is taken directly from the verbiage in chapter 59.
And they have to live in Grafton for, the Commonwealth.
They have to live in the Commonwealth of Mass for 5 years. It might actually be 2 years.
Or the
says 5.
service member.
5 years, oh, sorry, okay.
5.
It says, or the soldier, sailor, or member of the National Guard, or veteran was domiciled in the Commonwealth for not less than 6 months before entering service.
So if
Say, for
the,
example, as I read this, let's say the parents had been living in Connecticut,
yes, they
okay,
would,
the veteran dies, they now move to Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
They are eligible, because let's say that veteran had lived here for a year.
they would be eligible
They would be
immediately.
eligible.
But if he had not lived here for a year, they would have to wait the 5 years to apply for the exemption.
Okay.
Oh, so they can wait. If they move into that house, they can wait the 5 years? Does that make sense? Am I?
You mean
Yeah,
if they
I think it
move,
says it.
Right.
Yep, 5 consecutive years immediately before the date of filing for an exemption pursuant to this clause.
are you saying if they lived in a house in Grafton and then moved to another house in Grafton?
No, I'm saying, like, in her example, they
Oh,
lived
okay.
in
They moved
Connecticut.
from
Yeah, they,
Connecticut.
yeah, they have to
Here,
wait
They'd
5
have to
years.
wait 5 years, and
Yeah.
then they could apply.
Right.
And it has to be the primary, or it has to be the surviving parents or guardians domicile. So they can't just move here,
Right,
buy
it's not-
property, get the exemption, and then go
Right,
somewhere
it-
else.
it's
It has to
not,
be there.
Vacation property in Grafton.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There are plenty of those
or rental property.
on Silver Lake.
I'm just here for the comic relief.
There are a lot of homes in Silver Lake that are just waiting to be exempt. So,
was able
any
to,
other questions for
was I able to answer your questions
Yeah, I think
sufficiently?
so.
Awesome.
Article 29?
So Article 29 is the Veterans Property Tax Work-Off. I'm going to try and mirror the senior tax work-off as much as I can. One, to save me the effort of reinventing the wheel. It's already something in place, and this would then allow any veterans who are in the senior tax work-off to shift over to the veterans tax work-off to allow any more seniors who are not able to get into the program to have spots. I'm asking for 10 slots with the anticipation of filling 5 of those immediately once this becomes active. I've already had 2 veterans approach asking about it, so I know we have at least 2 people interested right away. I'm guessing once word gets out, we'll probably get a couple more. So this, unlike the senior tax work-off, this gives a maximum $1,500 abatement off the property tax. For, I believe it works out at minimum wage, they have to do 125 hours of volunteer work for the town, and then they get an equivalent minimum wage amount, which equals up to $1,500 taken off their property taxes. It is still subject to OBRA, so they do have to have, they will get a W-2 for federal tax purposes, but the state does not look at it as a tax. It's not taxed by the state. There are no income or age limits, excepting that the veteran or their representative, in the case that they are fully disabled and unable to do the work themselves, complete 125 hours of volunteer work in order to get the exemption. So as far as I understand this law, in my hometown, I could go do 125 hours right now and get an exemption. Whereas with the senior tax law, you have to be over a certain age and under a certain income. So the town is able to make certain provisions to govern this. Like certain towns have adopted the same exact rules as the senior tax work-off and income limits guidance and all that, based on the VA's regional income limits guidelines, which might be a little different than the Social Security ones, but they might be pretty close. But I've left that up to the town. I'm just proposing we allow any veterans who want to do that or are able to do that. It will benefit the town by giving the town maybe 1,200, and if we had all 10 people, they'd get 1,250 hours of if I'm doing my math right. I'm not a math specialist, so please don't judge me for that. But they'd
Well,
get a
this
bunch
is really
of.
important that you, no, I'm kidding.
Well, that's why we have you.
That's right.
It would give the town that amount of free work to help, offset some of the other town offices and provide people where they're needed to volunteer to support town activities, in addition to the senior tax work-off. So,
Have you spoken to Tim about this and the slots that are available for our seniors?
yes.
And what is the impact going to be for them? Because I know I don't know how many,
I think they have 10.
have 10 as
Barbara,
well.
I talked to Barbara Connolly, the Council on Aging Director. I actually got her guidelines for this, and
Okay.
I believe she said she has 10 people
All
who
right.
do the senior tax work-off, or at least 10 spots.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks there are probably, that she didn't identify whether any of them are veterans or not, but she thinks she has 2 or 3 veterans in the tax work-off
Okay.
right now. And so then if they could apply for the veterans tax work-off, that might allow a few other people. But I've been working with Mary Oliver, the assessor, to make sure that she could cover all this. And what I don't really understand what the overlay is. To me, it's a magical pot of money at the end of the rainbow. But she says there's enough in there that it should be able to cover this. Because if we got 10 people, which I'm only anticipating 5 right away, but if we got 10, that'd only be $15,000 off property taxes. So it's not a large sum of money, but it will benefit the veterans who are quite often
Right.
on
Right.
fixed incomes. So if they're of senior age or older.
And you're proposing no age limit on this?
As far as the guidelines go in the state law, there are no age limits.
Okay.
But if that's something the town wants to institute, I believe they're able to. There's also 2 provisions. Yeah, at the end of the verbiage, there's 2 local options that, by vote of legislative body of a city or town, they may adjust the exemption in this clause by, 1, allowing an approved representative for persons physically unable to provide such services to the town to do the work on that person's behalf, and then by allowing the maximum reduction of the real property tax bill to be based on 125 hours of volunteers. So I recommend that the town adopts both of them. The second one, you could base it on 125 hours of service in a given tax year rather than the $1,500. But if you add the minimum wage up to multiply it by 125, currently it works out to $1,500. So right now it doesn't really matter. But in the future, with the minimum wage a little higher, the hours may go down. So by putting it at 125, you can make sure you get a consistent amount of hours versus how much the person will get. Did I describe that okay? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's
Okay.
yeah. Any questions?
No more.
No? Good job, Justin.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
See you at town meeting.
Yeah. When is the town meeting? May
13.
13.
13th? My wife's due again that date, so I should have told her to wait a little bit more.
You should have held.
Oh.
Anyway, that's okay, but congratulations.
Well, thank you
was a
very
joke,
much.
wasn't it?
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your questions. And if you have any other questions, please, you can get my email from Sue. Email me directly. I'd be happy to talk to you about anything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much, Justin.
Have a good night.
You too. Drive carefully. Dan, you are up next. We have a special,
Yep, 6 and 7. Handouts are coming your way.
I beg your pardon?
Handouts are coming your way.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna look at the special first?
Yeah, that's I think the only one.
Okay, Article 6 and 7.
Right. So I wrote up a little bit explanation about each article for you guys, but I can go over those. So the first article is to establish a school rental revolving fund. This is authorized by Chapter 40, Section 3. So there's 14 revolving funds set up by various state laws for school departments. We have a few of them. These are 2 new ones that are part of those 14 that we have never had before. And each revolving fund is for specific revenue sources. So we've never had a long-term rental revenue before. So that's the reason that we want to add this revolving fund to accept payments for a long-term rental. So this reason that we're asking for that is we're going to be having solar panels on the
Wow.
roof of the high school, and through Select Energy. They'll install and operate the panels, and kind of pay us over a 20-year period. They'll have panels on the roof for 20 years. And we're expecting around $20,000 per year
How
from
much?
them. 20,000. So basically, it's set up as a rental agreement where we are not partaking in the energy output. We're just renting our space for them to do that.
Okay.
So that's that article, and also part of the article is asking the town to accept the provision of Chapter 40, Section 3, that allows the funds to be expended for the upkeep of any facility, and it also allows the fund to be a revolving fund where it could carry over to the next year if it's not spent.
So
So-
it carries over.
So I don't expect it to carry over. What we'll do with the funds, the 20,000, we'll just use to offset our electricity bill. So there'll always be, we plan on that in our budget for the offset already. So
Any questions?
How much did you say it was? How much you're expecting to get?
$20,000 each year for 20 years.
Do you
Oh,
see
it
this
is for
being
20
used for
years.
any other rentals?
Right now, we don't have any in mind. We were gonna try to also rent out the Millbury Street roof for the same deal, but National Grid's power grid couldn't handle that, so they said maybe in 5 years or something, when they upgrade their substations, we could do that at other buildings in town. Also, the middle school we could potentially do the same thing there, but they said our high school project is not as much as they could handle at this point.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact, Mary gets to assess those solar panels and
Yes.
charge the company.
Yep.
Well, you know.
Yep. More
Yep.
money.
All right. Any other questions?
And just to be sure, to be clear, the solar energy that's generated does not get fed back into the schools at all?
No, it just goes right to the grid.
Okay.
And one of the reasons for that is we have net metering credits, solar credits, so we already have kind of too many to take. We can't take any more energy. We've already kind of maxed out our savings for that. So now we're just gonna get rental payments.
Okay. Any other questions on Article 6? If not, Article 7.
Yep, Article 7 is to establish a school extended services revolving fund. This is authorized by Chapter 71, Section 26C. And the reason we're starting that is we have this summer will be our first summer offering a new enrichment programs for school-aged children. There'll be educational-based programs that our teachers will be offering, and this fund will just to be accept those type of revenue source, which we haven't had before, and this account is set up to receive that type of revenue. It's also available to before and after school. If we were to ever do that, Cherub's Haven does after school. We don't currently offer any before school care, but that's a potential revenue in the future that we could pursue. But we expect any revenue from the fees from the enrichment program just to pay for the staffing. So we don't expect it to be a profit-making venture, but just want to provide some more enrichment for the kids in the summer.
How much revenue do you expect to go in?
It's tough to know right now because we've never done it before, and I'm not sure how many classes we're going to run. It's based on enrollment, so some classes might not run if we don't get enough kids to pay for the teacher. So
What kind of programs are you thinking of, are the teachers thinking of for the summer programs?
maybe educational things. I don't have the list of things. I think there'll be maybe a STEM one, or
Okay,
could be an art class. It could be anything.
all right, but it's all educational based, it isn't a
Right.
recreational type.
Yeah, and the recreation department has their own summer programs for that, and we're just trying to add some educational options as well. There'll be half-day classes, and there's some information on our website. I believe actually the registration's open already, so you can actually see what classes
Okay.
are being offered.
How is it being publicized? I have 2 kids in the school, and this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah.
I don't read their paperwork that comes home, though. I'll read it.
You probably don't have time
I
to
believe,
do
it-
that.
I believe, yeah, I believe a paper went home with the kids, and we have it on our website. I'm not sure if it's been mentioned in the Grafton News yet, but
Okay, and like you said, the summer ones are half-day only.
right.
Okay, now, like a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, do they vary?
Yeah, I think they're all like, I think they vary, but I could pull up all the registration and tell you what each one was, if you'd like.
This kind of reminds me of the summer programs they have at Franklin School District that they run in the summer. And they have music programs, and they do have art programs, and then they have some similar, like they do
Bugs in nature or something, do they have that?
something like that, but then
Science.
I can't remember all the programs my grandkids have been in, but they were all educational based. And they learned to do video, you know, what do you call that word?
Editing.
Videography?
Well, some of it,
Yeah.
but anyway, so that's all.
Yeah, so it looks like there's they're gonna run like 4 weeks of classes, one
Okay.
week at a time. It's $75 per child, and
Sounds
I
familiar.
believe there's a list of classes here. Grafton's Got Talent. It's some
Mhm.
singing and dancing.
Yep.
It's one on STEM topics.
So are you expecting the fees to fully cover the cost of the programs?
Yeah, we set it up so that there's a certain amount of children that we need. So we're gonna, if we hit that number, we'll run the class. If we don't, we will. So
And you could go over and kind of accidentally make a profit,
Yeah,
in which
we-
case you would need.
that's right.
Got it.
Well, if this is successful, you're not gonna have trouble filling up those classes. In fact, I tried to get my grandson into a program and had to sign him up as soon as the day opened on January for a
Oh,
June
yeah.
and July program.
Yeah, and so on our website, on the main page is a link
Mhm.
to they call it the Summer Season of Learning
Yep.
catalog. So we got science, math, technology, literacy, and several other.
I think these will be
Topics.
successful, so I think it's a great
Um,
idea.
Transportation is up to the parents?
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
I lugged them around for 6 summers. I lugged my grandkids around for 6, 7 summers. So, any questions for Dan on this, for the special? If not, then we'll move to your annual.
Dan, will you have any classes in
Oh, they
how to
didn't have
mow a
anything else.
lawn?
They didn't have any annual?
Well,
They
the
had
annual's
revolving
only the
accounts.
revolving account.
No?
It's
Dan, were
only,
you gonna speak, they had just revolving accounts, that was just.
if that is these. If they're approved, these will go into the annual.
Oh, I
revolving
see what
account.
you're
believe
saying, okay, I see what
The
you're saying.
annual sets
Article
up
9.
spending limits, maybe.
Yeah, the
Yep.
spending limit.
And
Okay.
we, I think, put 50,000 for each one. I don't think we'll get. I mean, we only got 20,000 for the solar,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably even less than that for the
Okay.
enrichment. So.
All right, thank you very much for coming in, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Heavy,
I'm gonna excuse myself because I live within a couple hundred yards of the building. I just think that's a good practice.
okay.
Thanks.
Why would he have to recuse himself?
Because he wants to, he thinks it's a good practice, he's not benefiting
know
any
what?
money from it, he doesn't have a
Maybe
conflict
if
of
we go
interest, but
over here, because there's
I
speakers
think
right at
just
the
he feels
podium,
comfortable
would that help
doing
you? May I help you?
Might not want it.
Huh?
Might not want it in his neighborhood.
I don't think
Yeah.
he had to recuse himself, but he feels better about it.
It could affect my property value,
It could,
so.
no.
Bev, I'm gonna put you over here, right at where the whiteboard is, I think that,
Just trying to get it so
so it'll,
the audience can see.
right, that's true. Is that good? We're gonna get you on, you're on TV.
Special
So
or
you know.
regular?
What?
Is this special town meeting or regular?
No, this is regular, this is the annual citizens petition.
Page
There's,
16.
there's Mike, we're
Page
here.
It's the article,
Oh, This is the one on the,
yep. What article
Oh,
is
grow
that?
facility in that old brick
What
building.
article is this?
37, right?
37,
Yeah.
yep.
Is that across from
Sewer plant.
Mill Park Village?
No.
You see that from?
Yes, we can see that.
No, that's all burned down.
Jack, can you see the map?
It's on 122, 120?
Jack,
I see. Oh, I know
can you
where it
see
is
the
now.
map?
Yep, right by Depot.
Woo-hoo.
Boy, that building
Yeah.
looks pretty darn good from here.
Can he see the map? Asking Sue if he can see it. Can he see
Be
the
a
map,
good
Bob?
furniture factory in there.
Okay, he got it.
The furniture.
He can see it. Good. Welcome, Mr. Evie.
Thank you.
I think this is the first time we've
It is.
met.
I was going up and down the hallway, down on the first floor, looking
Oh,
for
no.
F, but had no luck finding it.
No, we climbed the ladder. We're up in the world, so
This is high finance.
this is high finance up here, that's true.
I don't want to bore you with too much stuff, but I brought a little
Oh,
information on
please
the mill.
bore us. I'm
We're
sure there's a
Finance
lot of-
Committee.
Yeah,
Come on.
we always
Here,
have.
yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you. Yeah, the Blackstone Mill.
Thanks.
Oops,
Did you folks leave one for Eric?
I put one here for Eric, yeah.
It made it to me.
Okay. Yep.
That's just the history of the mill. The mill was the first mill in Grafton in 1812. It's been a manufacturing mill since 1812. It was in the cloth business, yarn and twisting, for most of the almost 200 years of its existence. It employed over 200 people when it was in full swing. And all of Farnhamsville, or South Grafton, was based on that mill. In fact, a lot of sailors that were out of work way back when moved to South Grafton for the employment when the embargo was going on. So it's been around for a long time, and the use we're proposing is very similar. It's manufacturing use also. I know some of the people have concerns, as an example, I've heard, will there be an odor coming out of the building? The answer to that is no. It goes through a special charcoal type of venting system that it'll take up a good portion of the fourth floor. And then it'll go out, and we have a big chimney that you may be familiar with. You can see it in that picture there. It'll end up going up in that, getting shot way up into the air. But even if we didn't put it into the chimney, there'd be no odor coming out of the building. It's being used very successfully around the country, so we're not the first ones doing it. There's a multitude of them. There's a lot of steps in what we're doing, starting with getting the right seeds. I don't know who's familiar with the product. To tell you the truth, I wasn't as familiar as I thought I was until I started reading up on it. But you start with the seed, and you can only use female seeds. So you have to separate them from the male seeds, which is a process in itself. And then after that, it goes into germination and everything. I want to pass out again just a little bit on the steps that can be taken. I don't know if that's going to be enough, but I think it might be. The steps that you take in cultivating marijuana. Also, it's come to a point that there's software programs out there now, because one of the things is control and where is it going and how do you know what it is and what's in it. So there's software programs that have been developed. A lot of the states are also using the same software to control it. But from the moment you plant a seed, it's given a number. And that follows it right through till it's sold in a retail store. Every step of the way, it follows that number. And the records are kept forever by the company, I shouldn't say forever, but for a significantly long period of time, as well as we would have them at the facility. Some of the steps are the cultivation. The cultivation within itself, there's a lot of steps. One of the biggest expenses in operating a business like this is the electricity, because of the lighting, obviously heating and air conditioning. We're going with LED lights. The whole building will be done with LED lights, which significantly reduces the cost. And it's a cooler light, and it's easier to function as a grower. We're also going to be using solar panels on the roof. We've got a tremendous amount of space up there to, again, cut the cost of the electricity. But right now, if we didn't take steps like that, they project that the cost under normal lighting and not trying to salvage or create electricity is about 40% of the gross income, which is kind of scary at the thought of doing it. It doesn't allow for much profit. So there's a whole bunch of steps in the cultivating process, and the lighting, as I say, is a big part of it. There are different, you use about 16 hours of light a day, and so you're running the lights the entire time. We don't let any light, we let very little, if any, light into the building from the outside. In fact, I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with the building. It's in pretty rough-looking shape right now, although structurally it's in very good shape. But we're going to be doing all the windows over that are boarded up now. We're going to bring it back to what it looked like over 100 years ago when it was in really good shape.
How many square feet are we talking about here?
The building is about 100. There's a section that doesn't have a roof on it right now. If you include that, it's about 110,000 square feet. That section is 20,000. We're going to put a roof back on it, but that's just going to be used for trucks to back into and for picking up product. So we're not going to have any trucks on the street. Anybody who comes to pick up product would be backing in, the door would be closed, and it's a safety and it's also a security issue for us. So that's what that section of the building's being used for. We're going to use about 60,000 feet of space for growing. We're going to use a significant amount of space again, we're going to be employing close to 200 people, but we're going to be running 2 shifts. We're going to need a significant amount of space for changing rooms, because everybody who goes in there, for a multitude of reasons, we don't want any contamination coming in. We don't want any pests coming in on clothes and stuff like that. Plus, we don't want anybody with pockets. That's probably the nicest way I can suggest how that works. So we have to have a lot of rooms. We also are going to be paying very good salaries down for what we call the gardeners, the people who actually maintain the plants. They're going to be starting at $18 an hour, which is people who would be getting jobs in, a market or a store or something. They don't need special schooling or anything. We'll train them for what they have to do. But they'll be starting at that, and then we're going to have a lot of mid-management people working there also. There's going to be managers for each shift, and the building's going to be divided up into different sections. So you might have 4 managers on at a time, and their salaries will be starting in the $100,000 a year range. So those are good jobs too, especially for South Grafton where there's no employment we're talking about right now. We're hoping to get most of the people we need from the Grafton area. But and that's what where our first shot will be to hire people, is out of Grafton. I started to talk about the software programs and the way this is done. It's pretty sophisticated right now. It's very controlled. And the reason for that is the state, as well as the town probably, keeps very close watch on what you're doing. So we have to do a lot of reporting, especially at the state level. And testing. There's a significant amount of testing before the product is even finished. There's a growing phase, then there's a drying phase. Everything has to be weighed. We have to be within an ounce of product. We can't change. We can't say, oh, we thought we had 50 pounds, but we only have 40. They won't accept that. And if you have waste, that's controlled too. You can't say, oh, we threw it away. Everything has to be proven, weighed. It's a very specific process. This software program does it for us. It completely controls it. I think there's, I may be off on this, but I think there's 8 or 9 states that are currently using their software, and there's over 2,000 facilities that are using it in the U.S. They're also in other countries. They're in Canada as well. It's very successful because it takes the headache off the people who are running the facility. You can't be there every minute of the time, and this controls it. I mean, it's just pretty foolproof.
Are you looking at trying to grow a specific strain of marijuana?
There's 2 main strains. One is the type that is used to quite a degree in your medical marijuana, which gives you a very mellow effect, almost relaxes you. That's the most popular. There's another strain that gives you become very talkative, very active, very willing to work. But what they do is they blend those 2 together. And there's a multitude of different types. So the question is, there one variety we're going to be using. We're going to be probably growing 3 or 4 different grades of material. But they're going to be blended between the 2 original
But
families.
they will all have THC?
To some degree, some to lesser degrees.
Okay.
But yes, they'll all have some amount.
Okay.
If you don't have THC, you have more of a hemp-type product that,
The cannabinoid.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Not that I know a lot about this.
she's been reading. But it's,
Will you be producing cannabinoid oils or anything like that?
not when we start. I think we probably will, because it's almost a byproduct of what we're doing, so it makes sense. We're either gonna be throwing it away or manufacturing it.
I guess the first question, is there, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but you want this to be rezoned.
Yes,
You have to do this first, before you can even start the process.
correct.
Doing your building and everything else. Why did you look at this building for marijuana?
Why did I? Well,
Why did you decide to go into that?
I've had the building for over 25 years. And we've tried it for a multitude of things. When we first bought it, one of the things we tried was for artist type of people. We set up the whole 4th floor with little shops in a common area. And we only charged $100 a month for rent per person. We thought that'd be pretty well received. Well, we got a lot of people who showed up, but I don't think we collected $300 in rent until we finally gave the idea up. We've tried a lot of other stuff. We even approached a lot of companies, but EMC, when they were really starting to grow in Hopkinton, we tried to sell it on the fact that there's historical tax credits. We've advertised full-page ads in the New England Real Estate Journal. These are tough buildings to use for a second use. We have tried, although I'll admit in the last few years, I haven't been trying very hard because I've kind of given up on it. We're using it for self-service storage, which is just a holding pattern, literally. It's not a business that's makes an awful lot of money, but it covers the cost of owning it. But the reason we're going in this business, it's one of the first thing that's come along that fits into these type of building very well. There's quite a few of them being used for this purpose now. And when it's done, I don't know if you can see from where you're sitting, but we're planting trees all around starting at the farthest point on the road, on Providence Road and coming down. We're going to plant trees all along down Depot Street on both sides of Depot on the part of the land that we own. We're going to pay resurfacing the parking lots. We're going to do a lot. We're going to change the exterior just by replacing all those windows. Now, those windows are not going to be something that you can climb in through or you can't throw a rock through. But visually from the street, they're going to look like, just regular windows. They're going to be pretty well protected from the inside. And I think they're using a Lexan product on the action set of glass.
Now, I did tour your building about 10 years ago when you had opened it up, and there were groups of us that went through and toured. And I did see the part where the roof was gone, and then there was all that, like, it was at one time looked like a really nice area with all the glass and
Yep.
everything in that area. It seems like you're going to have to do it. How much do you think it's going to cost for you to renovate that building to be using?
Well-
It seemed like it needs a lot of work, but I don't know that.
We've been doing quite a bit of work on it.
Okay.
But we're going to probably spend upwards of $5 million on doing this. We're going to have to start right, even though we've got new rubber roofs throughout the top, we're going to be going back over the roofs. I don't know if we'll have to replace all the rubber, but that's our first step, and then work our way down. We don't want to build it and then find we have a leak. So we're going to start right on the roofs. We're going to, it's obviously all wood construction, but there's a product you can spray on the wood, which almost encapsulates it, because one of the things we know is that some of that wood, even still, I mean, we haven't had spinning machines in there now for probably over 20 years. But you can still see tiny amounts of stain every so often coming down from it. So we're going to encapsulate literally the entire inside for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it becomes more fire resistant. The humidity will be much greater than it is now, so it protects it from all of that. So that's going to be a fairly expensive project. We're going to take the fire escapes off the exterior of the building. We've had ongoing problems with kids climbing up and trying to get up onto the roof. When they get up there, they try to break in. They've been successful 1 or 2 times. But more important is it's not easy to get up on the roof, and I'm afraid someone's going to take a spill. And they seem to pick the middle of the winter is the time they seem to enjoy. I don't know why in God's name they would want to go up there in the middle of the winter, but that's when we have the biggest problem with them. We haven't had, for
Yeah.
a little bit, we've been okay, but, it goes in spells. It must be generational. I don't know. When there's some kids who don't know what to do with themselves, they decide to go vandalize.
No, it's every kid who's ever been born. They're all like that.
I don't disagree.
So
Like that.
if this gets voted down at town meeting and you do not receive the zoning that you're looking for, do you have alternate plans?
No.
That you want to do? No. You're banking on this?
Yeah, we've had a pretty good response from like the planning department, the Board of Selectmen.
Public hearing with them yet?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
The Board of Selectmen thought it was a good use for the building. They had an issue with how we got from where we are now through the permitting. they thought that we should try to do spot zoning and take this building and put it into industrial, using spot zoning. The planning department didn't like that idea,
No, I wouldn't think so.
and I kind of agree. Spot zoning can always be a problem. But this will allow, even if the zoning goes through, it gives the town a second shot to come after us and make sure if there's something they want, they're still in the driver's seat to get it.
Now, you have to get this zoning, and then you have to renovate the building, and then you have to go through this very complicated process through the state. So
Yeah.
you're looking, what, 5, 6 years down the road to start
no.
the operation?
No, I don't think it'll be over 2 years,
Really?
yeah.
The state's going to going to
Well,
go that quickly?
the state, from reading what the state has put out, the permitting should be a year,
Okay,
should be within a year.
all right.
In fact, it seems like they've got some restrictions that they require themselves to do the permitting within a year's time. But if it looks like we're going, we'll probably start cleaning up the inside or whatever we can to get started. We're not gonna go too far along because it's gonna be very expensive, but we'd like to get started and, on it as soon as we can. But it should be, I'm sorry? It shouldn't be more than 2 years for us to get started. We're gonna start growing as soon as we get a single floor ready. We're gonna work on about 3 floors. We're gonna use 60,000 feet of space, roughly 20,000 per level. So once we get the first level ready, which I think will probably be the 3rd floor, we'll probably start trying to harvest on that for 2 reasons. One, it'll get some cash flow, but more important, it'll let us test out what we're doing and see if there's a better way before we get the whole place built out.
What does the state require? I'm sorry, Barry, did you have something?
Go ahead.
What does the state require for security? I mean, it's pretty strict about that, correct?
Yeah, you have to have at least $500,000 of available cash. And
But
quite
how do
honestly,
you secure the building? I guess that's what I'm asking. How do you secure the building?
how do we secure it?
Yes,
We're gonna have 24-hour security on hand, plus we're gonna have a phenomenal alarm system in that building.
because I know the state has a requirement of how you secure the building so that there aren't break-ins and all of that. I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with those requirements, but,
That's exactly true. That's why, as I say, the windows, you won't be able to get in through. The fire escapes, although we've spent a lot of time fixing them up recently, are gonna be all taken off the building. And those doors are gonna be closed up, and then on the inside, we'll have staircases to compensate for the missing fire escapes. So that's gonna give us a lot more security. But we're gonna have a phenomenal alarm system. I've been doing preliminary meetings with a couple of different companies. I've been at some different conventions, and there seems to be a lot of them there now. And boy, it's amazing what they can see. Some of the new cameras they have are unbelievable. But we're gonna be putting cameras inside and out.
okay.
It's-
Dan, you had a question?
I guess, so, the answer might have been there, I might have missed it, but what does the state actually require that you do? Are these things that the state's requiring, or?
Not so much that they require it. There are some requirements. They have, it's like, say, a minimum of, I think it's $500,000 of ready cash you have to have available. But most of that is directed towards dispensaries. Quite honestly, you couldn't open a facility like this. 500,000, you just got to stop right there because you're going to fail. So that's one of their things that they're on. They are interested in how you're going to security. They're very interested in transportation. And by the way, the software program also has it has 140 programs. But one of them is on tracking. If you have a truck and you're making deliveries, it tracks that truck using GPS every step of the way, everywhere it goes. Every time it stops, it has a recording of where it stopped and when it stopped. And if it goes off of where it should be going, I mean, it can take a detour, but if it decides to go, as an example, you can't go out of state for any reason. But if they see it heading up to New Hampshire, the alarms go off. So these are things that the state is very concerned about too, controlling. Now, a lot of the times, we will have a vehicle to make deliveries, but most of it will be, we assume the dispensaries will be coming to pick it up.
And if you should at some point fail in some of the security issues, would you lose your license from the state, or how does that work?
There isn't anything you can do where you may not lose your permit. They're extremely, extremely strict.
Really?
Yeah,
I would think if you didn't have the correct security, that they,
security
Mandated.
is a prime thing.
There's a double negative in there.
Right, what he-
There's no situation where you can't lose it, is
In
what
other
he
words,
said.
Oh,
everything,
okay.
everything you
sorry.
do, if you
You
do it
just- all right,
wrong, you can
okay.
lose your permit.
okay, okay.
Yeah, there was a recent case where one of the people working in a facility handed some out the back door or something to one of his friends. Now, it might have not been a lot, but it was enough so, and I'm sure that place is also on a program such as this, that the amount they ended up having and the amount they should have had was different, and I'm sure the security camera picked it up, and maybe the security guard also. But that was enough to get them closed down. I don't know how long they were closed for, but in this business, closed for a matter of months can croak you.
So is the state not specific about what you need to do for security, but they're specific about that, like, result of not losing anything? Is that how it is with the
No,
requirements?
it's everything. You've got, if you have a bad batch of marijuana that you cultivate, number one, you test it before it leaves. That's a big, you can't sell anything until it's given final approval.
That sounds like a good job.
I'm never gonna stop.
Well, I have a chair for a tester that'll be set up down there. But it has, if it has anything the matter with it, or even when it goes out to the store, they want to know where it came from, they want to track which batch it was. So as I said, it starts with the seed, and it's got a tracking number right through till people buy it, and if they find that it's got contamination or something, they're going to track it right back to where it was made. I don't know if that answers your question, but there's so many controls.
Have you had a public gathering for the abutters in your neighborhood?
Well, we had, no, we're planning on doing that, but we're waiting to have, get through most of the committees and see how it looks. We're probably going to see if we can't get a restaurant and have everybody come to a meeting there. But I thought it was a little premature. Quite honestly, I'm still trying to struggle through all the rules and regulations. That's why when you say the state, it's very controlled. It's,
Mr. Heavy, the windows will not let light in or out.
no, we want to control the light. And more important, I don't want it to let anybody in
Right.
or out. So behind the glass, there'll be a very good barrier.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you would want to control the light that's coming down onto your plants.
We're better off doing it with these new LED lights they have.
Okay. And your customers will be medical dispensaries as well as recreational?
We're not growing medical marijuana,
Okay.
but I'm not going to say they won't be customers. It'll be a good, it may meet their qualifications. But our market is the recreational.
And the water coming in, that's town water? You're not pulling it from the river?
No, we're not. Although the mill used to own the water rights to that entire area. And the mill already has some really deep wells. We haven't tested them because we've never used them.
Right.
We use almost no water in the building at the present time. That'll be changing. So we'll either be putting in a big filtration system for the water, but we're going to be growing hydroponically. So we're really not using nearly as much water as you would think.
All right.
I've done some hydroponic growing in the past, not of marijuana, but of vegetables. And I've got an Amish friend out in Pennsylvania who has a large growing facility. And when I first, before I knew them as well as I do now, when I used to see pictures of them riding on horses, I thought, wow, they're living in the old ages. Well, they're not. But it was one of the biggest hydroponic operations I'd ever seen in the way he had it set up. So what they seem not to know, they make up for it in other ways.
But this is strictly processing, correct?
Excuse me?
It's strictly processing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a retail.
We're not gonna have a retail, and at this point, we're not even gonna be having the brownies and the edibles.
Okay.
And the waste effluent. The concern that I've seen with marijuana cultivation is that the waste can be quite toxic.
That's why we control the environment as much as we can. Actually, the waste, a lot of it now, you can, I don't know if it's, people will buy it, but they'll certainly take it because a lot of it can be converted into hemp products. So that has kind of, little by little, it's changing around where what was waste is now becoming a product, marketable product. Again, we're not really looking at that so much, but it is an issue we have to consider. And also, when if you got some of the product, if there's any hallucinating chemicals or parts in it, you've got to go through a whole different process to get rid of that. You have to mix it with other things. You just can't throw it in the trash. So, I haven't finished that part of reading, to be honest with you, but it's quite, even on the state level, they've researched it pretty thoroughly.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Heavey? Anything that we have missed or that you wanted to share with us before you?
I really didn't know what you'd want to know, so I was hoping for the guidance that I did receive, because I'm new with this too. I've built housing communities, I've done a lot of things in my life, I've run campgrounds, but this is something new.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and addressing this issue for us and allowing us to ask you all kinds of questions that you probably didn't know you were going to be asked, but anyway, thank you for coming in. We will be taking votes on this after we close our public hearing,
And if there's anything else that you do need from me, let me know, and
all
I'll
right, we
make
can
a
do
point
that.
to
Thank
get
you.
back to you,
I
okay?
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you need some help getting your,
No, I think I'm gonna be all set.
Carrie, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I just had a question, so you talked about, about.
Can we have you up with the microphones, please, so we can?
Hi, I just had a question
Carrie?
about.
Name, please. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Carrie Hogan. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. And so I just had a question about your business plan. So you mentioned you thought it would be about $5 million. So is the $5 million just the cost of the actual building repairs? Does that include the software? Like, is that part of the cost?
That's, it's not the building repairs, because some portion of it is, but we have to buy a lot of equipment, everything from special scales, which I didn't get into, but even the scales you use to weigh, they're tied into this software program, so there's no cheating and putting your finger on it.
So I guess Carrie asked a good question. I needed clarification, because when you said 5 million, I thought it was to renovate the building, but it's for equipment?
To get the building open and equipment and the renovation of the building.
So you've been doing some renovations, but
Yeah.
what additional amount of money will you need to finish those?
The windows is gonna be probably one of the major parts of it. And the removal of the fire escapes. And I don't know about the roofs yet.
So you really don't have an estimate yet of those?
Well, it's no less than $1 million.
Okay.
and I'm hoping no more than 2,
Okay.
but I don't have it tied down.
I'm sorry, Carrie, I interrupted if you
Oh,
had
no,
something
no, that
else.
was a very good question. So, do you have a specific software, company in mind? And if so, would you mind sharing what the name of that company is?
Well, I've got the name of the company, I believe, with me. They're out of Fort Lauderdale, but we're still talking with other companies. There's 7 companies that we're talking with, so I hate to.
There's
time it. Yeah, I'm not gonna get bids if I, if I say I
Or
already
you have to
decided.
go out for bids for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's expensive not only to buy it, but then you have a monthly charge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, usually licensing, software companies usually
Yeah,
have like
so
licensing fee.
it's an expensive purchase.
And then, so, it's obviously quite a bit of money. What is the source of the financing for the project?
We have some good bank relationships, and we think we can do well in that area. We've also had interest from people who want to be investors. We talked with one company that's in the LED lighting business, and does a lot of this type of stuff.
So you won't be the sole person, you will be asking investors to invest in the company?
We're not, no, we're hoping to go through our banks.
Okay,
But if we have to go to investors, some of those people who are gonna be supplying some of the things are, I think, quite willing to
okay.
consider it as an investment.
So the business plan, you're kind of putting it together. You don't have anything documented as far as this is the.
No, because it's gonna be, I think it'll probably be a year out before we're actually permitted, so it's awful hard to get commitments.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Anything else to,
No, I think we're set. Nobody else had any other questions, so, but thank you for coming in.
thank you very much.
I'm sure you'll have a lot more questions at town meeting.
Well, I found you folks had more good questions than some of the other boards.
Interesting.
Smarty pants of this operation.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Mr. Berger, you've grown old waiting for
Yes,
us.
thank you.
You got a phone call.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's okay, it was enjoyable.
Extras too.
Television, my favorite subject.
This is
I'm
for
recusing
Article.
myself.
You don't have to recuse yourself. All right, we're in Article 11 for the annual, correct? Yep. My eyes are going blurry here. All you.
Tired now.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, just to give you a little background, I think 2 town meetings ago, we voted in Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 3/4. I think that was 2 years ago, it might have been last year. So now to follow that up, that ruling is that we're supposed to ask town meeting, this is what we're gonna appropriate for the up and coming year, this is the monies that we're gonna spend, and that's what we're doing.
And that's all from fees.
That's all from the
Fee.
fees. But because this is the first year we're doing this, we as the administration wanted to just put it in a separate article, but next year, it's just gonna be in the budget,
The budget.
all right?
Okay.
So, I gave everybody, you wanted copies of the documentation, everybody got a copy of this. Any questions?
So, well, the budget you currently have in the operating budget is about $2,800. Is that?
Well, no, under the finance agreement, there's 2 lines here. There's 166 and then the 29 account.
Right.
The 166, under the license agreement, the town funds that $3,000.
Right.
So that $3,000 comes out of the budget.
That's something that we've done for,
Forever, because
Forever.
it's in the agreement that you
It's in
have
the
to do
agreement,
that.
right,
All right,
okay.
so you get the 3,000 and we always spend that 3,000
so
down.
that will stay.
That will always stay there.
All right.
Okay? But it's the 29 account, which is the revolving account, is what we're talking
Right.
about. And that's the big money. And the reason why, just for some background, this is going on through the entire country. because you have other parts of the country where they're getting $300,000-$400,000, and they might be allocating the money to something they shouldn't be allocating it to. And we have to allocate it just for public PEG access. And of course, that's what we've been doing for the past 20 years.
So now it has to come to town meeting to get approved.
Right, because of 53 3/4.
Okay.
Right.
Any questions for Bob?
I waited all night, I need one or two.
He needs one or two questions.
Okay, can cable TV do ads for a fee?
No.
Can you produce them and have them,
Well, we can do PSAs.
only PSAs?
Yeah, PSAs.
Well, you can't make any money being,
No.
didn't think so.
How much is in the account right now, in the revolving?
$812,776.11.
Cents.
11
To
cents.
the penny, Bob.
That's absolutely.
Right on the mark.
Yep. And you know, town meeting, we're going for a 600,
Right.
we're doing the 600,000.
Right,
The building down there is gonna be 1.1.
right.
And we have plenty of money to do what we have to do to keep our obligation. And I'm like a broken record. The bond is a 5-year bond because that's based on the last Verizon deal we just made, which is 5 years. So at the end of the 5 years, the bond's gone, and then we have to do a new license agreement with Verizon and Charter. We're doing right now. We're
Okay.
starting that procedure right now with Charter.
How is, an update, how is the building?
It's great. I mean, they're buttoning up things right now. The hung ceiling's going in.
Oh.
Furnishings are happening.
Oh, you're that far along.
Yep.
Put furnishings in.
Yep, I think June 1st will be, it'll be our building.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully we can flip the switch and turn the switch back on, and we'll be back on TV.
Good. Knock on wood, yeah.
Yes.
So this $313,306, that's the number that's gonna be in the
Yes.
warrant article? And that's all coming from that revolving account?
Yes.
Okay.
See, you got a question today.
All right, so this is, I'm gonna ask more. So this is the out, what's the in? This is what,
Oh, I don't have that.
come on, Bob.
It kind of varies, but you're talking
Average.
$350,000 a year.
Okay.
But that's gonna change a little bit because now we're getting rid of the South Grafton studio, because under charter, they deduct a lot of things because of South Grafton studio. They deduct the rent, the heat, they deduct a lot of things. But now that's gonna go away,
So it'll be
so
higher.
we want that money back.
Right.
So
Well, that's good.
it's going to work out a little bit for us.
Okay.
So it looks good. with the-
Well, you know, if
Yeah,
it did,
yeah.
if it didn't look, if the numbers didn't work, then I would not have been going forward with
Mm-hmm. Right.
this project for 1.1.
Right.
Because the numbers have to work.
Right.
And they do. You know, we get $75,000 in expenses for this year coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't anticipate spending $75,000. You know, 75,000's heat, light, gas, all for that building down there. That's a lot of money. Plus maybe some new cameras. This room, this year, we're throwing, I think, $30,000 in for new light and a new ceiling grid, because we want to keep our studios up to the latest technology.
These lights are really bright, Bob.
No, these are gone.
Oh, good.
We're throwing these away, and we're gonna put the ones that we have in Studio A, same design, right up here.
Okay.
So it's gonna be brighter.
Good.
I'm in the AV club.
Go ahead, Heather.
Sorry. Just speaking on my, as an accountant, just putting down 75 grand for expenses,
Yep.
they don't want detail? Like,
Well, in this,
seems
Heather
kinda-
wants detail.
Well, it just seems kinda,
well, what we did is we took a year's worth of expenses, and we threw them in this spreadsheet. There is detail in the year's worth of expenses.
whoever, okay. I just didn't know, like, who's this going, maybe I should probably.
Well,
figure out
you know,
who's going to.
you got the top with his personnel, then you got the expenses, which is the 75, then you got the debt to pay back the 600,000. So that's where we came up with this spreadsheet. It's a fast spreadsheet, but we didn't count every eraser
No,
and
I
pencil.
understand that, I understand.
And that expenses is, we're just budgeting for that. Doesn't mean we're gonna spend it, and I don't wanna spend it, because if we do run into something in the next year, if we keep on budgeting the 75, and we don't spend it, and we spend 50, that means we got 25 for a buffer for just in case something else happens through this 5-year period that we have to pay that 138.
So you're saying the 75,000 is going to go through to utilities, cameras, equipment that you need?
Right.
Okay,
Just to
Papers,
keep, just to
pens.
keep
Papers,
the
pens.
operation going.
going, okay. So it's all operational?
Right. And I mean, replacing a camera is operational.
Right, right.
Is
I-
operational.
You kind of need that,
I think
don't
we
you?
do.
Yeah, I think so.
So is it, so presenting this budget is, I guess, this will be then, we'll see this in the budget book? forward? Is that how that works?
I would assume.
I would assume, I'm not in charge of the book itself.
Okay.
But I know that this is the article and this is what we based it on. So I'm pretty sure that this
Right,
snapshot will be seen at town meeting.
yep.
Yep.
And then
I assume you will be presenting this as
Well,
budget.
what I think's gonna happen is we're going to have, obviously, I'm hoping for your support. So we get we
Right.
support this article. And I think one of the selectmen are gonna read the article to pass it.
Right.
And then if there's any questions in the audience, either myself or maybe somebody else from the committee will come up, or the accountant, because it's really the cable committee, because I have vast knowledge of this, and the accountant, we both have the same knowledge. We just want to get the general public to understand what we're doing, because when we went for the bond last time, I made that video.
Right.
And I thought the video, I only wanted to make it like less than a minute, and we did make it less than a minute, but we still had one person stand up and say, well, I don't want my taxes going up because of that. And it said in the video, this is, not part of your taxes. It comes out of this.
Right.
We said it like 3 times. So it doesn't matter how many times we say it, we're probably gonna get something.
Right.
You will.
Right.
You definitely will.
But I'm assuming when you present for your budget next year for our budget, operating budget, you'll have something similar to this
Oh,
Yeah,
in
just
our
in their
book. Yeah,
format.
yeah.
Just
in this format.
FYI, absolutely.
Right, okay.
Because then we can look back at what we just spent our first year of paying the bond and all
Yep.
that.
Yep. Sounds like a plan. Dan?
I'm curious about the, you have $1,000 budgeted for overtime for part-time staff?
I'm on this sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under part-time access staff, there's an overtime line.
Okay.
Because they have a
Yeah,
salary.
because we had overtime.
So they might work more than 40 hours one week.
Oh,
the
in
next
one
week might
particular
be
week, okay.
0.
Yeah.
All right.
Depends upon how many meetings they have to cover and attend
If
and
somebody was
everything else.
sick and then that person already had their hours allocated and they went over. This is,
Makes sense.
this is actual.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So do you know what, does the finance committee understand what this recommendation would read, the amount?
For,
So we're asking, it says to see if the town will vote appropriate a sum of money.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So as we're approving this, it would be approved in the amount of,
$313,000.
Okay.
all right.
$306.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That might have been, they wrote this before we analyzed that.
yeah, you
Yes.
did.
Okay.
I still want your support.
So this is all for fees, though?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
we're funding, the
Yep.
funding's coming from, so.
Right.
Yep. What did I just do with your budget?
Bob, do you have any plans now for the vaunted working with the high school kids?
No, that's Bob DeTomer's mission is to start talking to the school committee.
Okay.
And my dream is to get some kids down there to do a news show before school starts, so the kids can see what they should wear at the bus stop instead of Channel 4, 5, or 7. That's my goal, because it's right there.
Right.
I mean, that's why I've been advocating for having this in this location, because it's on the school campus.
Right.
2 school campuses. We have to get these kids in here.
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, you used to, so it'll happen again.
Right, because we were here years ago.
Yes.
Right.
And there were more than a handful of kids that were interested. But the program wasn't with a studio like you have now.
Right.
So I think you're going to,
Can't wait.
get a lot of interest.
And I think you're gonna get some really sharp students that are gonna
Yes.
come up with some very
Definitely.
creative things, so,
That's good,
yeah, it is good.
because that's why we're building it.
Yep. Any other questions for Bob? All right, Bob, thank you for coming in, and thank you for waiting so long. I'm
Thank you.
sorry
Had a
that-
great time.
You always do.
I know.
You always do. All right. Let me get organized here a little second. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to Monday night, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, I need to get organized here a little bit, so. We want to start looking at the specials. And we do have some assignments we have to do too as well. Just some business here.
When we opened the continuation of the public hearing, was that Eric and Matt who motioned?
To open, I
You opened?
motioned, yeah.
Yes.
and then Matt.
Matt, did you? Okay.
We're just voting on
Special.
6 and 7 right now?
So, I have to find, Sue gave me a list of things here to, that we have to, what we voted on, what we did not vote on. So let's
It's
start
a
with the
yeah, it's a
special
single sheet.
first,
You
though.
got a single sheet.
Yes, I have that.
Okay.
So, special vote. Is that
Yep.
received?
Received means the blurb was received,
Yep.
and
So we don't have anything that needs to be voted on?
6 and
Article
7.
6 and Article 7 from today, which is the school, on the special.
Yep, that's it, that's it, yes. All right, may I have a motion for Article 6 on the special, please?
Make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
The article.
And we recommend passage of Article 6 as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded.
Any discussion?
This
Yes.
question,
Discussion. Can, we have a recommendation that's written here. Can it say something closer to the fact that we're going to be leasing space on the school building? That'll generate $20,000 a year?
Anybody can write this. I wrote it from last year.
Oh.
I wouldn't put the
So-
dollar amount, because you don't know that you're getting 20,000 a
Right.
year.
no,
So
And
we're
it's-
voting
Well,
on,
that's,
No,
we're voting on the
He said
article.
That's what he's expecting.
he's expecting, but that's not a
That's not exactly
guarantee,
what he's
and I
getting.
wouldn't put it out there.
And it's also not limited to that. In other words,
Right.
their immediate need is to have this in order to go forward with that deal. But once passed, as he mentioned, they could potentially do this at another school, at another school, and something else might come up. Maybe somebody comes along and says, gee, could we rent, like, I'll just give an example. The licensing course that I'm in meets in Millbury. So if somebody came along and said, gee, we'd like to rent your library every third Saturday for the next year, okay, and the school's like, yeah, sounds great to us,
okay.
okay, they would be able
And I
to
know
do that, and the
Dan
money
had
would go
mentioned that
here.
they thought maybe they could lease something else out, but it wasn't
I don't
workable.
know
I,
that.
I understand all that. Or what's the phrase we use these days? I get that. And I hear everybody, especially the guy with the hand.
All right.
If I'm going to town meeting and I'm sitting there and I see this come up, I would like to have it say something maybe a little more instructive about receive rental payments for the leasing of school property. Well, does that mean I'm leasing classrooms? I'm leasing parking space?
I don't think there is a specific,
I don't think it's limited.
it's not limited.
Yeah, that's
So
why
I-
it says
That's why- This is
a
surplus space
general
in or
revolving
on.
account. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, right now, they're starting with the solar, but
The
it could
solar.
be something else. So
Is-
they
Right.
can't, they're not limiting.
This is a
I mean, if you wanna
revolving
say
One
account
of-
for general.
I understand that, and one of the reasons why I'm going for that is to show that the school is chasing money everywhere it can.
I think people are gonna see that.
Is Dan planning to speak about this?
someone.
Oh, yeah, they always do.
So they can get into those
They're
details when
gonna
they
get
talk
asked
about it.
questions, yes.
But I think it says for leasing of surplus space in or on school property, so it's not, I think that's good. I think that's.
Right,
The fact
but-
that it's not limited is,
I think it's
is more
wide-
to the
I think
point
it's
of
general.
their,
So could we though say, well, we're not voting on this,
That's
the
right.
recommendation, right?
No, we're just voting on.
We're
one-
voting on the.
But just
article.
as a suggestion, if we want to say that this is revenue, we could say, you know, the intention is to use this to offset energy costs or something like
Again, I
that.
don't think
You
you
know,
can
'cause
say that
that
because you don't
boots
know
it.
that that's what he's going to
Well,
use.
or we could say in
Well,
the.
that's
in-
what he said, though.
I understand, but that's not necessarily, so
What
if he
they're
gets
all-
more.
Right.
Maybe it'll start with that and then go somewhere. I don't think you should do specific, because what if he then rents the library? He's not gonna use that to offset electrical.
But this is just our recommendation.
So what I would say for
And-
the recommendation, though, to keep it general, is that,
To offset
it
costs.
just,
Yeah,
I
fine.
would say
Just
electrical costs.
say
Sure.
something to the effect that, you know, this is, it's encouraging to see the the school committee or the school department looking for other revenue sources. Make it very
Yeah,
general.
I'm with you.
So, you
Yeah,
got that,
general.
Sue?
Yeah.
20,000 is a nice chunk to mention
Yep.
for 20
So,
years.
any other discussion
or
on?
whoever speaks about it from the school will.
They will say that.
Well,
say
they
that,
will give
so.
I mean, our recommendations aren't meant to be specific,
Correct.
because
Unless it's a specific dollar
it's done as
amount.
bound.
It's not specific.
But otherwise, we recommend and we give the general recommendation, and then these people who sponsored the article are the ones who will answer all the detailed questions.
I
So,
would
anyway.
contend that our recommendations should be instructive, informative. People come to the meeting, they have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. And they sit there and they say, oh, look at this. I see, okay, the school's gonna lease space.
He sat right there and said he told them 3 times they were gonna be a tax bill, and they still didn't listen. So I think you, as an individual, that's how you approach the town meeting, but I don't think all people do that, quite frankly, so.
Well,
If they
me as a finance committee
If they
member,
show
I
up.
believe it's our role to provide a little more.
But we can't put specifics in
Instruction.
when this isn't made for one specific project.
Unless you want to include a definition of what a revolving fund is and how it works and why this is being done.
No.
No, I think you're,
No.
no,
I don't want to. What I'm trying to point out is that's almost what I'm hearing him say, which is obviously well beyond the scope of what we should be doing. To me, that sentence, this article establishes a revolving fund account
And
to
that's all it
receive
does.
rental payments for the leasing of surplus space in or on school property.
Right. And that's all the warrant article
he's doing.
is doing.
It's just establishing.
It's
a
not
fund.
doing anything else beyond that.
Okay, I give up.
So I think the recommendations say that we're encouraged by them, seeking other revenue sources without having to mention anything else is probably the best thing to do. Dan's going to sit up there, or Jay, and answer the questions of what they're going to do with that, so.
I disagree, but I'm outvoted, so let's move on.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Did you vote?
Abstain.
Did you abstain?
No, I'm in favor of
All right.
everything.
Article 7.
Make a motion that Finance Committee recommends passage of Article 7 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Discussion.
On the recommendation, wouldn't it be nice to mention that they're looking at summer enrichment programs, before school and after school enrichment programs?
I don't
mean,
have a problem
It's
with
not
that.
here, it's chapter
we-
71, section 26C, come on.
No, it says
It's-
the article establishes a revolving fund to receive fees for programs outside of the school day or year.
For example,
And we can put that in,
Sue,
for
are you
example.
going to publish the recommendations,
Oh, yes.
like for
Yeah,
comment?
We're voting on only the article right
Yeah,
now.
we're not doing
we're
recommend.
voting on the article, but somebody's going to be assigned to write the recommendation.
That's right, but could we vote on the article?
Yes.
And then we can,
Well, we're having discussion right now on the
Right.
article.
Oh,
We're
don't
not
vote.
on the article.
on the article. So, any questions about the article?
No, it's perfectly clear.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Barry, you write this article.
You want me to write this recommendation here?
Yes, I do. I want you to write the recommendation. All right, what are we looking at for the annual?
So you
Big
wanna do
mouth
it by
on
who
it. See?
came tonight?
See, it's like a punishment.
Let's,
You comment and
It's
they,
an opportunity.
so we
They
have
can-
this, we have the recommendation for Article
Boy, did I
7
hear that
assigned,
so
right?
many years.
We've written it.
We
Are
have,
all the articles are special assigned?
no, Article, 12,
Article 12.
That's CPC, they're coming in Monday.
yes. But they're coming in on Monday, but we need to assign for someone to
right.
write the blurb.
Because 12, 13, 14,
I'm not familiar with
15,
this
and
one at all.
16 are all CPC.
Yep.
Right.
But Robinson Property's a little bit different.
That's a different thing, yes.
So, if we could, I don't know the feeling of the board on this, and I don't think it's my place to write that, because it's not a
It's
usual
not a
one.
housekeeping,
I can
Which
get
one, 12?
assigned. These are
Well,
for what's
Yeah,
coming up
yeah,
on
yeah,
Monday?
Yep, yep,
That's fine.
all right.
Erica? Yeah.
Do you want to
Thank you.
do the article, do you want to do all the CPC
I think
articles?
they're,
Okay.
a lot of them are the housekeeping.
Yeah, most of them are. Sue's,
Yeah, a lot of them.
so Erica's going to do Article 12, 13. Sue, are there anything else that needs to be? I mean,
No.
these are just standard, just Article 12 needed to be assigned. So
So
Article
we stop
12
saying-
just needs to be assigned.
And voting can
Yeah.
take place Monday.
Sue's already done
following.
13.
Right. So Erica, Article 12 is the only one that needs to be assigned.
Okay.
Everything else is standard.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. To the annual.
Oh, Sue, I'm sorry, can we refer back to on the special to Article 8 for a minute? Do you want to reconsider that now, or reconsider?
Oh, we haven't voted on that one?
We did vote on it. Article 8 is the,
Old streetlight.
and forgive me for not putting in the vote, but it was voted on last night not to exceed $166,000.
And
We're on
that's
the
the wrong
special
amount,
Article 8.
because that's the grant money, and it should have been for amount of $123,435 from free cash. So, I would like to have someone make a motion to reconsider this article.
So moved.
The motion's been made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. May I have a motion to recommend Article 8 for this special?
So moved.
In the amount of
In the amount of
120, not to
123,
exceed.
435.
not to exceed 124,000,
No, 123,000.
$123,435.
Stand in the corner.
Sold.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
I think he was just real hurried, and that's the first number he saw was the grant.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're done with the special.
Done with this special.
Everybody's assigned. Who has not been assigned yet? Eric? Dan?
Eric's right in the marijuana.
Eric's right in the marijuana one.
Rookie hazing.
Okay, so what do we have to vote on for our annual?
Article 9 of the annual, which is the
All
revolving.
right, let's just take it at one at a time here. Article 9, which is,
The revolving accounts.
that's a pretty standard one, isn't that?
Yes, we waited because we wanted to hear school.
Right, okay. So that's a standard one that we do every year. So-
Yes, I have, but we haven't voted on it yet.
All right, may I have a motion, please, on Article 9?
Make a motion to recommend the passage of Article 9 as written. Finance Committee will recommend.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. What is the next article,
So,
Sue?
question, if they, don't, just devil's advocate, if the revolving credit, articles, I know he said that they're gonna put a different spreadsheet up.
Yep.
Do you have to reconsider? Because it's different?
You mean if the numbers are different?
No, if the actual revolving accounts are different. I don't see it.
Didn't they put those two in here?
Yes, they did.
They put the two in already, so that they wouldn't have to worry
But
about
if
that.
they just, for
If
example.
they
They
don't
get-
pass,
if they
though.
don't
For
pass,
some reason, or.
then
if
we'll
it-
have to
oh, yeah.
It'll have to
So
be
would we
amended.
Then we will
We
have
would have to
we
amongst ourselves.
reconsider.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
we
just
would
wanna
have.
make sure I
Yep.
understand that.
Then we would have to reconsider.
Okay.
So, well, if it gets shot down,
I don't see
then
why
the
that
vote,
would.
if it gets shot down, the vote is done.
Correct.
It's voted, then we don't have to worry about it till next year.
Okay.
So, all right. But if something should change before it's voted, we would
No, I understand, but I'm
reconsider.
saying during the meeting, if for some reason they shoot down the two school in this, the kid, I don't
In
know why they
special, right?
would.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd have to reconsider, so. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't think it is,
but
I just was
hopefully
curious
not.
what our.
The next article, Sue?
Article 11 of the annual, it needs to be voted on, and we need someone to write the recommendation.
Dan, you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we recommend passage of Article 11 in the amount of $313,306.
Second.
Is it $6 or 66?
Six.
It's 6? Okay. Can't even read my own handwriting. All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Dan will write that article for us. Next article is,
27 for tonight.
What did you say? Heather?
which is,
27 for tonight, but you want.
Okay.
what is,
No, you go.
so what next? So we're just kind of going in order here, so what's
Yes,
next after?
20 through 23, which are CPCs, but we need an assignment. I don't know what they are, wait a minute. let me double check.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
20?
20, which are unique projects, they're not standard articles.
Well, the Article
You just want people, you want to assign these right now?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Mhm.
So we're not voting?
No, we're not voting.
They're coming in
we have to wait for
Monday.
public hearing.
I would write the recommendation, but I would say we don't want to pass it.
Erica, you want to write Article 20?
Sure.
Okay.
$700,000 to plop into the common with arches
They'll
and
be in, they'll
and
be
a
in.
football
Article,
length
we
of
don't want to
brick.
discuss it till we have a public hearing. on it.
Well, okay.
All right, Article 21, you want to take that, Eric?
Sure.
Article 22. Irene, do you have one already?
I do, I'll take
Okay,
another one.
all
I
right.
already did my other one.
All right,
I do.
When though?
If I could have them
Friday, you said?
for actually Sunday morning, the latest, that would
But
be.
we don't.
So how am I
can
supposed
we-
to
we
write it
can't
if we
write
haven't
'cause they're not
voted?
coming
You
in
write the
here.
beginning, in other words, write what you think it would be.
Right, two.
Okay.
But if it's for something that's.
Yeah,
like this,
actually
you
write
can't
two.
Write something on this.
We recommend passage,
know
we
what
do
they're
not
doing.
recommend passage.
Okay.
Yeah, we always go through this. A lot of times it was suggested that if you write one for and one against.
Okay.
which is always a pain to do, but
It
I'm
is, it's
sorry, but at
difficult
this
to do.
point, we can't. So Article 23, who wants to cover that?
Who's doing 22?
22 is going to be
I'll take
Irene.
23.
Irene, I'm sorry.
Matt's going to take 23.
Did we skip
Is 24
22?
covered, Sue?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yes, Irene
Yeah,
has
me, I
that
already
one.
I have it
Yeah,
right here.
that's one, right. Anything else we had
Yeah,
to?
then we jump to 27.
these are the veterans.
The veterans.
And those can be voted on if you're ready.
All
As
right,
well
why don't
as
we
recommendations.
Have a recommendation for Article 20, please.
Say it again?
May I have a vote, recommendation for Article 20?
I recommend that the finance committee, I move that the finance committee recommends passage of Article 27 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion. If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Who would like to write this? Dan, can you take another one?
Sure.
All right. Article 28. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the finance committee recommends passage of Article 28 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Did you say aye?
I said aye.
Okay, motion carried unanimously then. You want to take another one?
Sure.
Why don't I give
could-
you all those
Yeah, I was
three?
gonna say I could do
Give I'll
the
give you
three
those three.
veterans.
All right. Article 29, may I have a motion, please?
I motion that the finance committee recommends passage of Article 29 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion. If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now what do we need to vote on?
37, 30.
37 and 38, yep.
On part 37 and 38.
And we also need someone to write the recommendations, please.
Right, may I have a motion on Article 37, please?
Make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend passage of Article 37 as written.
Second.
I have a motion that's made and seconded.
And what was the motion that we recommend?
Recommend, yes. Okay. Discussion.
Isn't this like out of sequence? Shouldn't planning and all those other guys have?
This is a citizen's petition. They did go before the planning board.
Yeah.
He said he would add their public hearing, and they also went before the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So what's out of sequence?
Okay, never mind.
Well, from what
I agree with Barry in the sense that pretty much all of the zoning changes relative to marijuana have come from the
But the
planning board.
difference with this is that it's a citizen's petition.
I understand that, but, that,
Are they in favor of it? Sorry.
yeah, no, but
I
this
don't
takes it
think
out of
they're
that
opposed to
process.
it. I think that they thought it was a good use for that building, so.
That's what Joe said yesterday.
I think it's a good use for the building too, but in terms of process, this is an unusual process.
Mm-hmm.
It's, typically it would come from planning board, and they would look at all of the community village districts, not just this one, and I think there's kind of a broader process, so, you know, I think he went to the planning board, they had open meetings, he met with a bunch of constituents, the questions will come in town meeting, so I'm gonna support this, but it is a little unusual in
Is it
terms.
being done this way just to expedite things? That if you had kept going the other process,
Well,
planning
he
board
has
would
to
have
get-
approved it?
He has to get this passed, or he can't do anything.
I'm
That's
not sure why he went this direction versus going to the planning board and saying, can you guys look at this? I'm guessing it's a timing issue. He'd
Gotcha.
rather get it going now.
Right.
Because obviously he's trying to put the business plan together.
Yeah.
And to wait till fall town meeting or whenever the planning board would get around to it.
Yep.
It's problematic for him.
Okay.
That's what I'm guessing.
May I?
Yeah.
If I understand you correctly, Finance Committee is compelled to invite everyone in who puts in an article, and they have to come before us as a citizen's petition. So he didn't even want to come tonight. And I think since a lot of you folks are, you know, on the younger side on the board, we used to have tons of citizens petitions, and it never seemed to fit. But we're just compelled to hear and vote on every single article.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that's the, if I'm,
I don't remember what Joe said when he was here, because didn't he mention,
Yes, he did.
I don't remember what he said, do
He
you?
said they support it.
They supported.
Yeah, I remember because I was a little bit surprised, but
Well, I think because it's village mixed-use zoning, and they don't have to, you know, it's something that could work better that way than.
Yeah, they still have this special permit process, so it's not
Well,
like,
yes, right,
Yeah, I
it
was just
isn't
about to
that
say,
he's
it's-
this isn't a rubber
it's
stamp.
important to
from the
remember
planning
we're not voting on this particular property or this particular owner and this particular business. We're voting on whether
We're
this should
zoning
be.
so that he could put up this
Right,
particular
we're
business,
giving
that's
him
the
a
difference.
path. We're creating a path
Right.
for him.
And I kind of feel like a lot of questions that, I'm not saying we shouldn't have asked them, and things good that we asked everything we asked, but I think a lot of those questions are things that
They're not
planning
relevant.
board would consider when he goes to get his special permit. That's something that they would consider, and I think should take into consideration a lot more than we should tonight.
No, I think we're allowed to ask anything we want.
I
Oh,
know,
yeah,
but
no,
But I
but-
think what he's, I understand, because, but this, you know, we've been through this with the
Yeah.
other warrants where we have to vote on this, and this is asking for changing the zoning.
In the zoning.
It's not asking whether or not we have great security, which
Right.
I would, I know,
Well,
I asked the same question.
and you know what? I kind of disagree with that, because if he didn't have great security and he wasn't
think he
mandated by.
has a business plan.
I don't, he doesn't, he didn't say he did.
Right.
But all I'm
I
saying
mean-
is that all the questions are relevant, because I'm not going to support zoning if he doesn't have
Yep.
the security and all the things that
I don't
he
think
knows yes it does.
He has a, he has.
Well, he doesn't have a business plan.
He doesn't
No,
have a
because
lot.
he can't, and this is
And
what's
I
so
understand.
difficult. He needs
can't
this
put the
first
cart in
before.
front of the horse.
Right,
I
right.
get it, yes.
But I also think that the questions we were asking about zoning this, I think it's important to kind of find out what exactly he does know.
He doesn't,
You know,
that's the problem.
that's the,
He's
I
still
know,
learning,
I know,
and that's what makes me nervous.
yep,
But
Yeah,
the
but
gate
that's-
on this is by special permit,
That's right. Yep.
which gets done
Goes to the
by
planning board.
planning and ZBA and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not specific to him,
no,
unless, I mean, is he the only
No.
thing that constitutes village mixed-use zoning in
no,
South Grafton?
because then it would be considered spot zoning, and they
Right,
won't do
okay,
that.
which is what, okay, so in other words, while we're focused on him because he's the one who brought it, and he has a definitive thing that he wants to do if this gets approved, there's other people who may also say, ooh, there's something I'd like to do, okay? And also present, and try to get a special permit. So this is not based solely on whether or not he goes forward.
Right.
What we've done is prevent a pathway that he's indicated he expects to pursue immediately. However, there may be somebody else 6 months, 6 years from now. This opens that door.
Just in South Grafton though, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
But they still have to get the special permit from planning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All we've done is open the gate at the beginning of the path. There's no guarantee they'll get through.
Right, okay.
I don't really want to open the gate.
Any further discussion?
I don't know, $100,000.
If not,
to be
all
a
those,
marijuana
all those in
plant?
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Abstain.
I
Abstain.
have
All
to, I
right.
have to make a vote, so give me a second.
200 people pumping out marijuana.
I just, my only concern is this is a zoning area called village mixed use.
I'm
And I
trying, going
think
over
it's-
what Joe had talked about. And
Yeah.
Which article is it attached to? It's attached to Article
37.
30, no, the zoning.
Oh, the village mixed use zoning, those are.
They're
Article
that-
30.
that's- Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, no,
The way I see it,
30, you're right.
if from the outside, the smell and the windows are completely non-see-through, if everything's kind of contained like that, from the outside, I don't see it being all that different from an office building. And I kind of feel like that fits in village mixed use, so in that way, I don't really have a problem with
It's
it.
kind of nice
I
that
guess-
he's fixing up the building in South Grafton.
Well, it
I
is.
mean, that's the
That's
big
nice.
benefit that I see.
I see too, is the benefit
The
of that.
external look and feel of it, and then you've
Yeah.
got, trucks pulling around back to make shipments.
But there's also a part of me that wants to take it to town meeting and let the townspeople
Absolutely.
decide. that
And they
you know.
will, that
They
it will be
Right.
their decision
Right.
regardless.
But we have to recommend it or
Right.
not recommend it. We can't say, we'll let you guys
Yeah,
decide.
no, and again, it's on the floor. I just have to decide which way I want to vote on this one. I know.
You're on the clock.
I know.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article
You could have
because
just abstained if you wanted to.
No, I don't like to abstain unless there's a good reason, like there's something I don't know or I wasn't here. Otherwise, no, it's up
All
to
right,
me to make a
make a
decision. I'm
decision.
gonna
All
vote
right.
against.
All right,
What
you're gonna
happens
vote
when-
against, okay?
What happens when someone votes against? That's just,
Nothing,
Nothing.
nothing.
Do we,
still recommend it?
do we
As long as
say
it's-
the vote
Yeah,
count?
Yeah,
Do we have to do a
majority
roll call?
counts.
But do we, in our recommendation, do we, because in the past I've seen it
We
like
did it
spelled
for
out
one
as like a
specific.
5-4 or something.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
did it with special ones, and I don't have a problem putting down
Yeah.
the numbers who were
It was like
against.
when it was like 5 to 4.
Yeah, that
We
was
actually
Okay.
had some sort of a agreement that if it was a 5-4 vote,
Sure.
or,
If it was
you know,
close, then
Okay.
we would put it.
But in
Like-
general, we don't. We just.
Right, like
Right,
a 7 to
right.
1 vote yesterday
not-
is not
So may I take the
necessary.
vote once again? All those in favor?
I.
All those opposed?
Me.
Abstain.
One, and one abstention. So, all right. Motion passed.
So does this need a?
2/3 vote at town meeting, yes. All zoning
Okay.
articles need 2/3 votes.
Just wanna make sure.
We probably should put that on all of the other zoning articles as well. They need a 2/3 vote, although town moderator knows that, and most people do, so.
Does that go in our recommendation?
We used to write that all the time.
We used to just put it in there, Sue, 2/3, needs a 2/3 vote.
All of the
Yes,
zoning.
please. We don't need to vote on that, so. Article 38,
I move that the finance committee recommends passage of Article 38 as written.
Second.
motion's been made in second. Discussion.
This is a really smart thing to try to do.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
this is a good thing to
Totally
do.
agree.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, that was a quick discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right.
Did we assign 37 and 38?
Matt has, oh, no.
Who wants to
Matt
do
has
38?
36,
Heather
and
will
now we
do
have
38.
37 and 38.
I'll
Who'll
do
it?
38.
You will do 38.
Yeah, I think it's,
Who's doing
go green.
37?
I like it.
I think whoever, it should.
I'll do 37 since it's a zoning thing.
Yeah, and I think it'd be useful to clarify, like, that this is just opening the gate, because I think even hearing all the discussion, I wasn't quite clear what we were approving. So just in the recommendation, maybe make it double clear that there's still a lot of permitting processes that have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that we're not
Well-
voting on on this guy's
Well, it
specific.
says special permit, and,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll emphasize that a little bit
That's a
more.
good
All right.
point. We're not saying this guy can do this. We're
Right.
saying in general, if somebody wants to,
Yes.
It's that district.
they can go through the special permit.
Yeah, but we have to stay within scope, and this is his.
Yeah, yeah.
So I will say it opens the
This is
gateway
just a
to
note I passed to
other
Sue.
businesses, I guess, or something.
Does that really say that?
Yeah.
He
Yes.
feel bad, the guy.
Okay.
It's
He's a
specific to
citizen.
his,
I
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
Agreed.
yeah,
Okay.
we have to do it that way. Any other
Oh, it
votes we
was.
have
Oh,
to
it
take?
was.
I think we're good.
All right,
Okay, so.
so please get your,
I'm gonna do my total one right now. I'm just gonna have you check this one to make
Yeah,
sure I
yeah,
get it right.
all right, just read it out loud to all of us.
Okay, so this is for Article 24.
Article 24, could we all listen up to Article 24, Daniel?
Finance Committee recommends passage of Article 24 to transfer the sum of $10,000 from free cash for the purpose of funding the long-range information technology maintenance account to support the hardware replacement project.
Sounds good, good. Excellent,
I'm
send
gonna
that to
sit here and
Sue.
do my other one and send them to Sue.
Send it to Sue,
Yes,
right.
please.
Sue needs them no later than Sunday morning, please.
Yes, I'm sorry about
We
the,
have, we have CPC coming in on Monday, and that's gonna be, and I'm hoping that we can, review all of the recommendations Monday. And if we still have some time, we will vote on the, state of the town message, or the, whatever I'm calling it at this point. I will get it out to you tomorrow. Please be kind. I suffered with that thing. I did.
I'm sure it's.
I got it down to 3 pages that went to 4.5, so I got it down.
We're waiting with bated breath.
You're waiting for
Yeah,
bated breath.
seriously, I'm
It's not
waiting for this.
exciting, and it was so funny because they said,
Don't
you know.
reply all. Do not hit reply all.
I know, I will BSS all of you guys, or BCC.
Yes, indeed you will.
They're gonna BS all of us?
Erica, can I ask you something?
That's what
I
the
was
state
like,
of the town
yeah,
is.
Freudian slip.
Would you like to renew your term membership?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, I haven't responded because I'm thinking hard.
Think
My
hard.
kids did not, they were not involved in hockey, and my job was not as intense when I
Yeah.
agreed to this.
Yes,
So my life is very chaotic.
okay,
So I have to think hard about it.
all right.
Will we know Monday?
Yeah, I'll let you know by Monday.
Okay, thank you.
So I will BCC you guys and just send, I'm not going to say I'm going to make all the changes that you come if I think it's worthy of it, but what I basically did is I analyzed what we did for the budget for FY '20. You'll read it when you see it, and hopefully it'll meet all your things. And I did I will send it out to Becca and Tim so that Becca can double check the numbers, but I pretty much I checked all of those pretty well. So anyway, it's not anything fancy, but I will send it out to you guys and BS you guys all to death. All
We
right.
expect
May-
nothing less.
Nothing less, that's right. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So motion.
Are we adjourning?
Second.
Or continuing?
No, we already
We already made
Yeah,
that
we're
motion to
adjourning
continue,
now.
so I want to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. Third.
Motion's been made, second. All in favor?